Our next guest here, almost at the halfway mark of the season, the Hawthorn Footy Club have got a bye. They lost the first game of the season to the Geelong Footy Club. They've won the next 9 in a row. If you don't mind, they are going beautifully on top of the ladder. Please welcome Alistair Clarkson, the coach of the Hawthorn Footy Club. Welcome, mate.
Steve, all right?
Very nice to see you. Just the bye this weekend, sitting on top, a nice place to be.
Yeah, this gives the players a bit of a spell and the coaches, but had a good week this week. We've been up to the Hall of Fame dinner on Tuesday night, so to all those inductees, congratulations. A great footy night on the calendar.
Hey,
Big Sammy. You're in it, aren't you?
Yeah, he is.
You didn't go, where were you?
Where were you?
I had duties back here.
Street talk?
And swatting up for the show and getting facts and figures. And I was inducted with the Chief and David Parkin.
You're preparing for this interview, weren't you?
I was.
Hey, Clarko, the most frightening bit about 9-1 is at the start of the year, quite rightly, a lot of people said that Hawthorn had drawn the worst draw in modern AFL history. I think you played every finalist in your first 7 or 8 weeks, and yet you're 9-1. So that's scary.
Yeah, we did it pretty tough early on, but I think the Cats had a tougher draw than us, actually. I think their first 4 games were 6-day break, so they too have had a really good start to the year. So, listen, we're pleased where we're at. We've had a bit of adversity with some guys going down with knee injuries, but and Cyril going down too. So, hopefully we can get Cyril and a couple of other boys back after the break.
How quickly till we see him?
Cyril?
Yep.
Probably a week or 2 after the break, I think. He's travelling along pretty well. We just want to make sure he's completely right when he comes back, so probably a couple of weeks.
Hey, Clarko, we don't get access to you too often, so it's great to have you. Got some questions about Buddy Franklin, and I reckon you know that. We take you back to late last year and clear a few things up. Boys are in Vegas. He and Gibbo are over in Vegas having a break, and it was reported that you went over there and you were over there and you caught up with him, which raised the eyebrows of some people, not so much the others. Do you want to put that into some context for us? Yeah,
I caught up with Bud and Gib when I was over there, but we quite often catch up with a lot of players when we travel overseas. You know, I went to Seattle and Chicago with Sammy Mitchell. I was meant to catch up with the big rough in San Antonio. We went and visited the Spurs last year. We just missed each other by a day. So we do that quite frequently. So
we're interested in you catching up with Buddy.
Caught up with the big fella there, yeah, and Gib as well.
So had a robust conversation with him?
It wasn't too robust. They were a little bit keen on having a drink for that time of the year, Sammy. But no, listen, I catch up with the players whenever we travel. So
it wasn't testy. There was no angst because when he came back from that trip, that was when he announced to the footy world that he was going to put off all contract negotiations. So the footy world put 2 and 2 together and come up.
No, he actually announced before he went on the trip that he was. Yeah, so that's where it's a little bit different to what's been reported. But I spoke to him about that, but it was more about preparing for this year. I spoke to Gib about a couple of things as well. None of it to do with reportedly being on the sauce too much, but more to do with just how their season was going to pan out in 2013.
So where does it sit now? There was also suggested that I think Andrew Newbold said round 16 would be about the time you'd like to know one way or the other. Is that still the case, or are you just going to let it play out?
Well, we've just got to let it play out. We'd love to know as soon as possible, but the reality is it could be end of September or early October, and if it is what it is, I suppose, and we'll just deal with it as we go. But our attitude all along has been, whilst he's a contracted player at the Hawthorn Footy Club, we just hope that he can do as best as he can for our side and help us try and win a flag this year.
So that interests me, Clarko. If he comes to you and says, let's say 2 weeks out from the finals, I'm going to take this offer and I'm going to go, but I'm a committed Hawthorn player for the rest of this season. You as his coach and the coach of every other player on your list, how will you handle it?
I think we've just got to deal with those sorts of things. Similar sort of thing last year. You know, Leon Cameron and some of our coaches, Adam Simpson, were going through coaching approaches from other clubs, and it's difficult. You might lose your coaches in a final series. Not easy to deal with, and you've got to make a decision. If they get jobs, will you let them go, or will they complete their contract? We took the approach with the coaches last year that we'd keep them to complete their work at Hawthorn whilst they're contracted, and we'll do the same thing with our players.
Clarko, if you did win the premiership, the grand final, and Buddy was to go, you would only get compensation pick number 20. You happy with that?
Love a couple of picks like the Cats got, mate.
Yes.
I think the Demons got a couple for Scully as well. But listen, they're the rules, and you just got to abide by them, Billy. But Yeah, it'd be a bit stiff to only get that pick if he did happen to go, but we're still pretty hopeful that he'll stay at our club.
And just on that, Clark, and I know you're probably sick of talking about it, but if Damien Barrett reported last week that it's going to be in the vicinity of $9 million. $9
million.
Over 6 years, which is
Yeah,
1.5 a year, which is a lot of money. There is a capacity for the AFL then to pay an ambassadorial fee, which they have to Carmichael Hunt and to Izzy Folau. And that can be hundreds of thousands of dollars, which potentially can bump it up to around $2 million. Now, no club, regardless of your club, can compete with that sort of money. Does that annoy you? And the AFL won't get involved. They've said that, haven't they? They won't get involved unless something happens, and then they'll look at it. The capacity for them to do that, to put your club in a situation where you can only go to here, are you happy with that situation?
Well, there's not a hell of a lot you can do about it, Gaz. Our attitude has always been we'll present an offer to Bud that we think is relative to what we can afford to pay. Whatever happens outside of that, we can't control. And if he chooses to go, and there's AFL money that gets added to it at the end of it, then that's for the AFL and Bud to work out. But just from our point of view, we'll offer what we think we can offer as a club relative to our salary cap, and we don't want to cannibalise our own system too much. So once it stretches beyond what we can afford, then we'll just happily have to push ourselves out of the market.
So it's an Ablett scenario. The Cats were prepared to go to X amount and not particularly keen to budge.
Yeah, well, and you've got to do that in a sense if you want to stay in that premiership window and keep relativity with your salary cap in terms of paying your players a pretty fair amount. And we've got some good players, and we don't want to lose those guys if all for the sake of just keeping one.
Must have been an anxious. Sorry, go ahead.
No. I was just saying, obviously it's an uncomfortable situation for Bud, but the whole footy club as well, you're getting dragged into it. Is it something you approach with the playing group, mate, about, how to deal with it all?
Yeah, we spoke about it a bit before the start of the year, Brownie, but we haven't had to deal with it at all, really, until tonight. But our guys have been pretty professional. It helps when you're winning, but the scrutiny hasn't been too bad at all.
An anxious start to the year because you lost the first game and Jeff called for your sacking. And you've kicked on because you haven't lost a game since. You must be really disappointed he's not still there.
He's re-entering the 4A, isn't he?
Apparently he is. He's just
going to have a crack at Jeepers Mob, isn't he?
He is, yeah.
How would he go, Clarko? You reckon this?
Oh, listen, he'd be terrific. I'm not sure he's a long-termer. He gets in, has a crack, rattles the cage a bit. He was terrific for our club. He's terrific for our state, of course, but he won't be around at the club for a long time. But for the short period he is, he will do a great job if he does end up doing it. But that's obviously for he and the clubs to work out.
I'll take you back to your first year, and you tell me whether this is right or not. This is what I've heard. You've appointed the coach of the Hawthorn Footy Club, and you got your teeth into it as you do, and I know you well, and you're a full bottle at it. After a while, you noticed some things that needed to be done, and you put in requests, or you said we needed new infrastructure or new stats, and Hawthorn couldn't afford it. And in the end, you financed that yourself. Now, I don't want to embarrass you, but that speaks to exactly who you are as a person, and that is an incredible thing.
Yeah, we were pretty down and out as a footy club at that point in time, and obviously when you're appointed to a role, you need a fair amount of support, and if you can't afford the things that you require as a club, then it was more important that we got that resource in some sort of manner. And if the club couldn't pay for it, then I didn't want to go without that resource.
Speaking of
mate, that would not have happened before.
No,
I am
that's
telling
over and above the beyond.
Over and above.
Whatever you call that,
Yes,
beyond the call of duty.
That's it,
speaking of dire straits, did he ever approach you or anyone from Melbourne approach you to coach the Demons? What?
No, I didn't. I didn't have an approach from the Demons, but
from him.
But my management did.
Oh,
my management did, yeah.
Oh, well, that's a subtle, not directly.
It's only a play with words, but I reckon an inquiry and an approach is a different thing, Sammy.
Yeah.
And
why did you not take it? Why did you give it credence? Did you look at it?
No, I didn't, because I was still in season with the Hawks, and I still firmly believed that I was going to continue to coach at that club. I just had to get past Jeffrey Gibb. I thought if I get the rest of the board members on side, I'll be right, but Jeffrey Gibb was a bit hard to turn until late in the season.
Hey, Clarko, during that time, we just noticed whether there was a bit of angst between yourself and the former president, of course, Jeff Kennett, and we've got some, I think, secret vision, which I think you've already seen, of a scuffle that no one saw.
This is not. Tell you what, Jim.
Jeff down on the ground.
That is disgraceful.
Now, Clarko, did you see this when it went on the show?
I was out on that particular night, but my wife taped it and had a bit of a laugh when we got home. But you got a couple of welts, didn't you, Sammy?
I tell you what, you gave me a nice flogging.
We would like you to know that was 100% Gary's idea. He came into the meeting and said, "This is not
right." And I texted you on the night and told you these things.
I'd tell you what else he wanted to put on was you and Chris Fagan, your good mate, your assistant coach here. How are you getting on? Here you are. Gazza wanted this in the box. Have a look at him here. Fags, what are you doing, you idiot? I told you. And poor old Fags is here, your good assistant, next year here, mate. Hang on. Here we go. What were you saying to him?
Yeah, we had Gibbo got injured and we couldn't get the stretcher out onto the ground. So I was a bit poor old Fags, settle down, lad. He should have just given me the phone.
It's an unbelievable environment, the coaching environment. You're still enjoying it now as much as you were when you first started?
Yeah, I enjoyed it as much as ever, and especially now we're got an opportunity to win finals and play some good footy, and our players have we've got a good crop of players that have been there for a long period of time, but also got some young ones coming through too. So that's really exciting for our club.
Gia.
Clarko, you got my great mate Brian Lake over at the end of the year, and I hear a couple of weeks ago that you might have given him a bit of a bake, and he thought it was in his top 5, and he's had rocket. So there's some pretty good bakes. So how are you enjoying coaching him?
Yeah, Big Lakey's going all right. We had a bit of a difference of opinion a couple of weeks back, but no, listen, he's travelling well. We've stripped a bit of weight off him, as you would have known. Got him down to Billy's weight, so he's looking okay, the big fella. And he's really important for us now, particularly the Showmaker's going down with that knee 5 or 6 weeks ago. So he's a key player for us in the weeks ahead.
But it was about the lights last week. They were magnificent. Clarko even drove down during the week. I saw him, and he went down to have a look at the lights, didn't you, Alistair?
Oh, yeah, my folks are down there, Billy, so the old man's not too pleased. I said to you that, shining the lights in his window.
And he couldn't cook his toast and googie egg because there was no power and anyone else in Geelong. But they were fantastic. Everyone in Geelong loved them. We're very, very proud of the lights, except for the bristle, Brian Taylor, who had a crack at the Cats about the lights went out, and the first time, Geelong have ever seen electricity, so he had a go at the Cats.
You had a go back at him?
I had a Billy's bake on the rush hour, 3 to 5, Triple M. And the locals weren't happy with him. Yeah. And then Brian fired back.
He got angry, Brian.
And Brian got angry.
How angry was he?
He wasn't happy, Gary. Look at him. He was filthy. Brian Cook, you can get stuffed. Look at him.
But the clock didn't work either, Bill, did it? The
clock worked. It just went up instead of going down.
Oh, well, so it didn't work.
No. Gary, explain what happened to the clock.
It didn't work.
And so that's fair enough. And he was happy
instead of counting down...
Oh, this is not the massive issue, though, really isn't. It was a lovely night.
Let me explain, Gary. Instead of saying 2 minutes 52 to go, it said it's at the 27 minute mark. It counted up.
Exactly. No big deal.
No big deal. Exactly.
When
that's ridiculous,
sitting at home as the audience, you want to know when the siren's
Not necessarily. What would you rather know? Just go with me here, Roger.
With you. You want to know how much time is left, not how much time they've played.
What would you, Alistair, as a super coach?
Of course, what he'd like to know when
Shut
the game's...
up! I asked Alistair.
No, I'm going with Sammy, mate.
You'd like to know when the game's close to being over.
Hey, we need to thank Al Clarkson. It's always great when we get AFL coaches in. 9-1, you're flying, Clarko.
Well
great
done.
to see you. Good luck with the rest of the year.